Hello, hello. Um, I don't know how many of you stuck through that little blip just now. By the looks of it, my Ethernet cable is not a secure connection. Um, I bumped it a little bit and it blipped to the Wi-Fi and then blipped back to wired connection. So that's not great, especially since that's a pretty new cable. I hope it's not the connector on the computer end. That would be harder to fix. Um, I hope it's not either of them, but that's not great. So OBS is happy with it. Twitch is not happy with it. So I guess I'm just going to soldier on. Um, what we have today is I've got things to use up. This is our last stream of the year. Um, it's been I've been at this a while. It's been quite the journey so far. Um, if you'll remember, just before Thanksgiving, I had some tuna, and we salted the tuna, and it's been in the salt, and I transferred it to a different container because it was kind of sagging down because I had them vertical. Today, we're going to actually make a recipe that calls for specifically Maltese salted tuna. We're going to use up a goodly amount of it in a way that it's actually intended to be used because I want to see what the point of it is. When I tasted it by itself, it was much too salty. I'm not sure how to use it. Um, but I guess we're going to find out today how to use it. And and how the Maltese apparently want to use it is in pumpkin pie. So that's what we're making today. And I have, in fact, already started making the pie. For one thing, we're making a half recipe because it was too big. But I already made a ball of dough for our pie crust. This is not normal pie crust, not American style. This is not normal American pie crust. This is something different. So I had to make it up, and it needs some time to rest. Indeed. Let's back over the countertop. Orb. Here it is, the orb. Um, this is going to have to be our top and bottom crust. The pie that this recipe wants to make, by the looks of the pictures, is like enough to feed a family of 12. It's this gigantic thing. So I've sliced the recipe in half. So we've got a small ball of dough. It was supposed to be twice that size. Um, I actually don't know how big my pumpkin is. Everything is listed by weight, except for a few things that are listed by awkward descriptors. I'm going to weigh my pumpkin real quick. This, I think, is the right kind of pumpkin. It calls for a red pumpkin. This was just listed as a squash, but I think this is a red pumpkin. And it is slightly smaller than it calls for, but it's still more than half the size. So we're going to not use the whole thing. Although I'm going to peel it and gut it out. So it's probably going to be just about the right size. Uh, it's all metric because this is a recipe from Malta written by a Maltese person living in Malta. So everything is by grams and milliliters, except for salt, which is in teaspoons. Um, onion, which is listed as small onion, which could mean anything. Uh, and exactly 20 olives. Oh, and the herbs, which are listed as bunches of mint, parsley, oregano, marjoram, and basil. Just bunches. And a few handfuls of raisins. Just some things are measured out and some things are just chuck some stuff in there. It's fine. So I hope that means it's a pretty free-form recipe that I won't have to struggle with. And I am working from an actual written recipe today. We're working from website A Maltese Mouthful for pumpkin pie, torta tal carga hamra. And it says prepare the dough ahead of time. There's our dough. Prepare all of the ingredients for the filling until you return to the dough. So this is actually going to go back in the fridge because we're going to prepare all the fillings before we return to the dough. Yeah. So step one, since this is already here, let's get into this pumpkin. Let's find out what the innards of this pumpkin looks like. And I have to remember to cut all these things in half as I add them along, because I'm trying to make a smaller version of this mess. Big knife. Or should I peel it first? How to peel a small pumpkin. Nope, that's not the answer. I'm going to cut it in half first. Look at the inside. Oh. I know it just kind of looks dark orange on the camera, but it actually has an almost reddish color to it in real life, which is why I think this is what my recipe is asking me for. Oh, it does have a soft spot. I noticed it developing a couple of little spots on the outside. So I guess we're going to have to cut those away as we get into this guy. It smells interesting. It does not smell like a butternut squash. I thought it was going to smell a lot like any other pumpkin or squashy thing. But it really doesn't. It's really kind of a unique smell. Looks like we only have some small soft spots to deal with, so that's good. But we are going to get out my paring knife to try to minimize the losses. Small knife has more control for these little curvy things. Ugh. Sharp-edged spoon probably has even more control. Oops. Yeah. It's actually quite soft on the inside too. Like not squishy soft, but like tender compared to other squashes I've dealt with. I've never had one of these little red guys before. I see them and I always avoid them because I don't know about them, but darn if this isn't just easier to core out than most of the rest of them. I will have to remember that next time I'm getting squash. I'm curious as to what it tastes like too. Because yeah, these are coring out super easy, super fast. So I don't know if you were here yet. I had a blip right at the beginning of stream where the stream dropped like 3 times quick succession. And I've narrowed down what causes that. Now I don't know how to fix it. Cable connecting the Ethernet cable connection to the PC is not secure. If I lightly touch the cable, it loses connection for an instant and then reconnects. And while it's doing that, it of course tries to switch to the Wi-Fi, and Twitch loses the signal. The cable's pretty new, which makes me feel like it might be the socket on the actual computer that's not holding it very well. But the other cable seems to work, so although I don't know. I don't use the other cable nearly as much. It's not as long, so I can't feed it into this room. That's why I bought this long cable. But I've also noticed that occasionally if I bump it, the HDMI cord that runs to my second monitor will do the same thing. So I'm wondering if it might even be just that part of the board over here is not good. Like the part of the board that the sockets are attached to. But I don't really want to go rooting around inside a laptop if I don't absolutely have to. They're a pain to get open, and they're very compact in there. At the moment, I'm just being careful not to bump the cables, because if they don't move, they don't seem to have any problem. I wish I had one of those peelers with the teeth on it. That would probably get into this pumpkin pretty well. For as easy as the core was to scoop out, the peel on these guys seems a little harder to deal with than your typical butternut. So I guess it's a trade-off. And we're getting rid of that soft spot. That's going to be another one. Although I'm starting to get the hang of how to get into this guy. If I had the budget for it, I would just get a new computer, because this one's getting a little bit long in the tooth anyways. Um, the 4000 series of graphics cards just came out, and mine is a 1000. It's a 1070. So it's just barely keeping up with the demands of things. I haven't tried any new releases on it, because I doubt it will even give them any success. But that's not a priority on my list, because the one I have works. I noticed myself stopping talking. Uh, I know that was partially said in jest, but potentially, because I know that Twitch isn't a big money maker, but it can be a small money maker. And since it's an earning potential, it has theoretical tax benefits. This awkward peeling of the pumpkin, it will be a good opening act during which people can filter in. Oh, that one went a little bit through the skin too. I didn't buy this today. I bought this pumpkin a little, like a week ago. It was on my cornucopia starting screen on Saturday. And it developed some minor spots while it was sitting around. Obviously not being kept in ideal storage. But other than the little soft spots and these are like scars on the surface. Must have gotten damaged in transport, I imagine. But other than a few blemishes and minor soft spots, it's quite firm, which is the sign of a good squash. So, happy to progress. I had hoped this would go a little bit faster, actually, because there's quite several ingredients I have to deal with for this thing. It's a little bit of an involved recipe. For those of you following along at home, I didn't mention it, but really do be sure to cut away from you while you're peeling your pumpkin. It's hard enough that you have to put quite a lot of pressure into the knife to get through it, and it tends to then slip through quite quickly. And if it's pointed towards your hand, you are very likely to slip into your hand with this. That's generally good advice, but especially for something like this, where you're putting a lot of pressure on it, and then it's moving abruptly, breaking through abruptly. I'm less worried about cutting towards my hand when it's something that's quite easy to cut, because I have a lot of more control over the knife. Oh, welcome in. Yeah, this would be a bad time for 911 calls. I'm sure they're very busy. God, you know what was very busy? Because I did go to the grocery today to pick up leeks, because there's leeks in this pie. The grocery stores are incredibly busy. People are stocking up. But even more than just the regular grocery being very busy, the liquor department was jammed. I used the liquor entrance because it's closer to where I parked, and also so that I could look at the liquors. But damn, there was so many people there. I wasn't expecting people to be buying tons of booze ahead of Christmas, but there you go. Okay. Our red pumpkin, maybe, probably, has been peeled. I'm going to empty that stuff into the compost right away. We're going to give it a once over to get rid of these little scar tissue spots. They're like the eyes of a potato, except not at all like the eyes of a potato, because I think they're just damage that it suffered either in the field or probably in the field while it was growing, because it's scarred over. I don't think it scars over when you damage it after it's been picked. It just goes mush. And I want to get rid of them. Oop! I didn't drop it. I caught it. I want to get rid of them because they're hard. I don't think they'll cook when I cook the rest of it. They also don't look very nice. Okay. Good point. I oft forget that I have a blessed relationship with my family, and many people dread going and visiting theirs. Okay, the pumpkin has been all cleaned up, and now we need, according to the recipe, 1.6 kilogram pumpkin diced to 1 centimeter by 2 centimeter. Here's my scale. I'm not doing this exact. But I do have a centimeter grid on my cutting board, so I can go pretty close. So, what are your plans for the holiday? I've already gone into a little bit of detail for my plans for the holiday. I'm headed to visit my parents, just as I did for Thanksgiving. And we're heading out tomorrow, so this is our last show. And then, due to the timings of the holidays themselves, we will be unable to get in another show in between Christmas and New Year's. So I will take the opportunity to finish up some of the things I've been working on, and hopefully we can start the new year with some channel upgrades. This is a lot of pumpkin. Even cut in half, this is going to be a lot of pumpkin. Take that chunk off. Snazzy. Is this pumpkin par cooked at all? No. The pumpkin only is cooked by being baked. So I will, I guess, judge how much I need by how much actually fits when I get that far. Because we've got a lot of other ingredients. It can't all just be pumpkin. Um, Nearly there. Nearly there. Or maybe wait. Is the pumpkin par cooked? Pre-cooked? Instructions are all about the dough. The pumpkin chunks look pretty big. Nope, nope. Pumpkin goes in the pan and gets fried before we put it in the pie crust. So I think this is just an enormous pie. Even cut in half, this is just an enormous pie. I guess I'll have leftovers to take with me. I need the bigger bowl to hold. I can't hold all this pumpkin. Yeah, I can work on Twitch stuff wherever because it's not online, and even if it is, it's not live streaming stuff. It's just like graphics and making new scenes in OBS and all that sort of stuff, getting it all worked out. And that's all testable offline too. You can just run OBS and it shows you what it's doing. So that's a lot of pumpkin. North. Into the frozen north. Okay. Pumpkin. I hope half of an onion is equivalent to a small onion because I'm using this half onion as my small onion because I have half an onion from a different thing I made, and I'm gonna use it up. I've been using stuff up too, so I've only got a few of perishable items left, except for ones that I specifically picked out for the recipe today. Yep. Watch me mangle an onion real quick. Okay. That feels like a small onion to me, as opposed to the whole thing. So maybe I've got a quarter onion for breakfast. The leeks, fortunately, gives me a weight. It doesn't just say a small onion or a small leek. So we can actually hang on to the rest of that onion. uh, we can actually get a correct amount of leak. They came in a bunch today, so I have lots of leak. I have more than enough leak. It's very leaky in here. Thank you. I'm glad that a professional onion observer is at hand at all times to observe my onions. Settle, tear. I'm supposed to have 550 grams of 3 small leeks. Sliced medium thin. I know it's going to be at least one whole leek. But let's find out how much one good sliced up leek actually comes to. I've said it before, and I will now say it one more time. You can eat this top part of the leek. This part, they always say, throw away the dark green part. You can totally eat that part of the leek. It's just that it's a lot tougher. So if you want to eat it, you've got to start cooking it before this bottom part and cook it longer. Cut it the same way. Cut it across. Don't, because these long fibers make it really hard to eat any part of the leek that's not been cut crossways. But you can totally eat that part. There's nothing wrong with it. You just got to treat it right. Like a lot of things, you just got to treat them right. Okay, how much leek is this? That's about half of what I'm looking for, so I guess I'll just do another one of the leek of the same time, of the same size. I bet you're right, because the darker green probably has more in it. I'm not going to use them today, but totally can. Since I've got a recipe and I don't really have I'm not prepared to use the top part. I could save it. You know what I could do? I could save it, freeze it, use it as part of a stock. Since I don't have a specific plan for it right now, rather than just chucking that whole thing. Oh, you said that, and then I didn't read it, and then I said the same thing, and then I took credit for it. That's how you be a man. You pretend you didn't hear someone else say it first, and then you say the same thing as though it were your own idea. I learned that in man school. One of these is going in the compost, though, because it's a little bit slimy right on the outside layer. And that's a sign that that outside layer is just about ready to go off. Same way the green onions will, their outer layer will start to go off, get a little bit creepy, and then it'll dry up. But they get a little bit creepy before they dry up. 200 is pretty close. I've got one whole leek because it came in a bunch of 3. So I've got one whole leek left. Since it's nice and intact, I guess I'll just hang on to it. Those 2 extra leek tops can go in my stock pot. And by stock pot, I mean I'm going to stick them in my freezer, and next time I make stock, I can chuck them in as suggested. Big one, small one, small one. Small one, because then I can just go a whack, a whack. Stick them in there. A whack, a whack. And stick them in there. So I've been an advocate of regrowing green onions from the little rootlets at the bottom. Leeks have the same thing, but my understanding is you can't regrow leeks that result in a full leek from these little rootlets. The best you can hope for is more of these, the fibrous part of the leek tops, and you don't get a ton of them. So they're not really worth trying to salvage the way green onions are. My green onions in the front window right now have essentially fully regrown because I'm only eating the top parts when I eat them. So I leave that whole white root area, and that's where the plant stores up energy to regrow. So it just keeps successfully doing it. Just wait for them to get full-sized. Leeks, pumpkins, onions. Fun part. Oh, I should do the garlic. I should do the garlic before I forget, because as always, do your garlic in advance so it has time to really develop its flavor. Okay, using those because they came off. We're gonna get a little dish. We're gonna mince up our garlic into our little dish. This is an interesting recipe. As I read through it, I've read through it more than once because I wanted to make sure I knew what I was doing before I got into it. The recipe has an alternative if you can't find salted tuna, or in our case, we made our own salted tuna. It has an alternative recipe, but it says that if you use the alternative, you must add salt. Whereas if you use salted tuna, do not add any additional salt. So salted tuna, and the alternative recipe has anchovies as an ingredient to try to amp up the saltiness, and then it also wants more salt. So the salted tuna is quite salty. It's salty enough that you need to add salt to your anchovies in order to match the saltiness. But there's no other salt ingredients in the recipe. It's just salted, preserved fish, which is fascinating because it sounds like they're using it the same way that like the Romans used garum and the Chinese used fish sauce, where it's a preserved salt ingredient that brings this salty, savory flavor into something else. It kind of makes sense after having tasted it by itself. I wouldn't eat fish sauce by itself, but I love it in the things that it goes in. And I'm starting to think that salted tuna is in a similar vein, although more solid. These are nice big cloves of garlic. This is still farmer's market garlic. And it's still nicer than a garlic I got from the grocery more recently. All right, I stopped talking all of a sudden. I need to keep reminding myself to not stop talking. Ever. Not even to breathe. Oh, I did it again. I did it again. Okay, we gotta get that off of there with the tiny spatula. Oh, one of my ingredients is par-cooked rice, for which I need boiling water. So I should probably, since I thought of that just now, get some water on and start boiling it. Water. Stove. Become boil. Oop! I've been moistened. I don't even have oh my god, I'm unprepared. I was unprepared for this eventuality. Curse your sudden but inevitable moistening. Thank you for the moisten. Mmm, moist. Okay. Garlic. Um, Pumpkin leeks, onions, garlic, salted tuna. Here's our salted tuna. Well, here's our tray of salt, which contains some tuna. Let's get out a chunk of it. Take a look. Ooh, it's been a couple weeks since last I did anything with it, and it's definitely, it's very firm. It's very solid. It's also becoming a little bit darker. Ooh, and it's got a really interesting smell. Rinsing the extra salt off. That's what they look like. As you can see, I can just hold it from one end and it doesn't flop. It's just very solid. How much do you weigh? Oh, well, I guess that's all I need for the pie. That one piece. Um, that's just shy of half the amount it calls for. So I guess you're supposed to use this stuff in pretty substantial moderation. Makes sense having sampled it. It's a pretty potent. It's a take one little extra piece. Okay, so it's pretty potent stuff. Um, I don't think I'll be making a ton of this in the future. I will keep it in mind whenever I find tuna. Oh, wow! Thank you for the Prime subscription. That's one of the things I want to get working on my upgrades is audio notifications for subs. You can do that. Okay. That's the amount of salted tuna I need for this pie. So yeah, uh, realizing this, I think using this in small quantities in things, much like you would with any other preserved fish item, is probably the way to go. I'm going to mince this up. Knowing this, I definitely have enough to run experiments with because you only use a little bit of it at a time. It looks very nice. It kept its bright tuna red color, but it's got this wonderful. I don't know if you can see on the camera. It probably doesn't pick it up quite well. It's got this sort of gloss, even on the interior cut surfaces. It seems like it keeps the description in the recipe I followed to make it, which is a very basic recipe of get tuna, add salt, wait. Um, uh, the recipe suggests that it literally lasts forever. That once it's salted, it has no expiration date, and also that it improves the longer it sits in the salt, up to a few months. So you can start using it just weeks after it's been salted. But ideally, you would have it in there for at least a month and a half. And for maximum flavor, you want it in there for like 3 months. So there it is. My water is boiling. Which means I need to get my rice out because there's also rice in this. This is a hell of a thing. This is a hell of a thing I've decided to embark upon. Got to weigh out some rice. Half the amount of rice. So we're going to go for 150 grams of rice. I need my medium scooper, which is wet because I just washed it. So we're parboiling some rice so that it doesn't go into the pie hard. You can buy par cooked rice ready to go, but I find it to be kind of gross. But since we're par cooking it, you don't have to measure out the water. You can just chuck it in there because you're going to have to drain it anyways. No, the crust does not par cook on this pie. I'm quite fascinated by the crust, and I'm very interested to get there because it's got a full description. At least half of this recipe is a description of how to make the crust, and it's a thing. But I had to make the dough ball in advance, so we've got the dough ball already ready to go. I'm sorry, I'm reading through to make sure I'm not missing anything. I do need to preheat my oven, so we'll get the oven preheating to 180 C. And let's get this tuna off the board into a dish. Tuna. We do have another salty ingredient, actually. I couldn't find Maltese olives, so we've just got Kalamata olives, which it suggested was a good enough alternative if you can't find Maltese olives. I don't know what the difference is, and we'll never know because I couldn't find them. These have pits. I'm going to eat one to see if they have pits. They're tasty. And they have pits. So we need to pit them. Because it would not do to have a an olive pit in your pie. And it wants exactly 20 of them. Since I'm doing a half recipe, exactly 10. For those of you who do not like olives, I apologize. It only suggests a way of swapping for a different olive, not a way of avoiding them altogether. I was a little surprised, actually. Remember, I made those olive cookies, and I love those things. I was thrilled. Just shot myself with olive juice with this one. I was thrilled with them. They were not a smashing success, in large part because I was unaware of how many people don't really like olives. I think they are wonderful. I'm using the pits to count how many I've got because they get kind of mashed up in there. So, 2 more. The cookies have been finished, by the way. I polished those off. They didn't last too long. Those of you who tasted them, who were fortunate enough to taste them after I made them, are aware of this. But I underbaked them a little bit. I think they needed about 2 more minutes in the oven. They were a little bit soft, even after fully cooled, and I think they're supposed to have a bit more of a crisp to them. So that's the only thing that I messed up with them, is that they were a little bit soft. Okay. Immediately dropped one of the olives on my floor. That's fine. I'm just serving them to myself, but don't do that. I'm going to roughly chop them. Okay. This is such an interesting recipe. Ooh, I almost forgot my rice. We need to not fully cook the rice. The rice is supposed to be a par cook, so it's not total mush when I bake the actual pie. So, you need to drain it out real quick. bowl, strainer, pour. You're not going to get to see it because it's going to happen in the sink, but you're going to get to listen to it. Ooh, ah, oh, ooh. A lot of it stuck to the pot. Occasionally, and I'm not sure what the theme of it is, but I've occasionally, when I've been exploring these recipes, found local variations of how to cook rice, including an Indian method that just boils it like pasta and then drains it, and this method that par cooks it so that it can then cook it again. And I've been blinded by the, like, typical East Asian method of cooking it in just the right amount of water so that it absorbs all the water. Okay. It's literally boiling hot. I'm touching it and it hurts. Ow. But par cooked rice. There was nothing to see because it was all in the sink and I don't have a camera by the sink, but there it is. Bam. This is the stupidest part of this recipe. A few handfuls of raisins. Whose hands? How many's a few? I think I'm going to throw in a box of raisins. It also wants capers. How many capers? I do. Gonna have to get more capers. I'm just gonna throw those in the bowl with the olives because if they go in at the same time, olives, capers, and tuna all go in at the same time. So I could actually put them all in the same bowl. Tablespoon of capers. That's another salty ingredient, actually. So I guess the tuna isn't the only salty ingredient. Interesting. Yeah. Some parts of the recipe are super detailed, and some parts of the recipe are extremely vague. And okay, from the top. Flour, water, salt in the dough. Butter to build the crust with. Pumpkin. Leek. Onion. Garlic. Salted tuna. Or, this is the thing, it's fresh salted tuna or a can of tuna in oil plus 5 anchovies. Par cooked rice. Olives, capers, and then the rest of it is herbs. Oh, and raisins. Okay. And the herbs it calls for, some of them I don't have fresh. Let's clean that olive juice off of my board real quick. Oh, well, it does kind of assume that I'm not living, like, it's a recipe written by a Maltese person living in Malta. But it does make concessions, assuming I can't get Maltese olives and Maltese tuna and so it's got got some reasonable substitutions. This is the most vague part. Small bunches of mint, parsley, oregano, marjoram, and basil chopped. How much is a small bunches? And also, some of these I only have dried. So, I guess just however much I feel like. Marjoram. I had to buy mint for this. Mint. Which is still got its freshness seal on. I've never used dried mint before because it's grows like a damn weed. But I don't have any fresh mint right now because it's the middle of winter, so. Mint. My basil is homegrown. It's all dried now because it's, again, the middle of winter, but I home grew my own basil. Which we'll just grind up. It's got a nice strong basil flavor. Another thing that interests me looking at this recipe, it does not call for additional salt because of these salty ingredients. It also does not call for black pepper at all. I'm so used to black pepper just being in everything as a, like, at the end, salt and pepper to taste. Not here. Neither of those things are to taste here. It actually has no peppery ingredients in it at all. It has no hot pepper. It has no black pepper. It has no mustard. It has no sharp, no piquancy at all. Very strange. I find that very strange. Basil. I have dried oregano, but I'm going to take this opportunity to not use it and instead use some of this stuff. My Cuban oregano, which is not from Cuba. It's been growing pretty forcefully despite the winter. It does not seem to be bothered by the low light at all. So I've got quite a bit of it. It was actually pushing against the window, so it's growing in every direction, not just toward the window. I should say that. It's not like it's pushing against the window because it's desperate for light. It's growing outward in every direction, including towards the window. And it grew out forcefully enough that it was touching the window, which I don't really want it to because the windows get kind of cold. So I cut the part that was facing the window, and here it is. If you're not familiar with this herb, neither was I, but it's not related to oregano, and it's not from Cuba, but it's sold under the name Cuban oregano in the U.S. I've only ever seen it at greenhouses. I think it's sold as a decorative, but it's fully edible, and it has a fun, similar to oregano flavor. Not identical, but similar. And I quite appreciate it because that's quite a lot of it there. It's quite a productive plant, honestly. It's been growing very strongly since I got it. It seems to be very hardy. I doubt it would survive freezing, but aside from the cold, it seems to not be bothered by varying light levels, forgetting to water it, any of that stuff. It's good. It's fine. Um, Unlike oregano, which I've always managed to kill my oreganos. Um, and parsley, which I have some fresh parsley left. I've tried growing my own parsley, and I think that's a waste of time because it just never gets big enough. We're going to take the stems off of my parsley. I also avoid buying the curly parsley. I know people like. Oh, you've made tea from it. Interesting. I never thought of that. I've got tons of it because, like I said, it's a very productive plant. Um, I'll give that a try. That's an interesting idea. Now, parsley shrinks up a ton when you cook it, so we'll have a generous amount of it. I'm going to chuck the stems. Once again, you can use the stems of the parsley. They are edible, and they, surprise, surprise, taste like parsley. You just need to cook them earlier than the leaf parts because they are a little bit tougher. Kind of like the leek, but in reverse. The recipe was very clear. Have all your ingredients prepped before you start messing with the dough, before you start constructing it all. So we are getting everything ready to go in little ingredient bowls. And then we're going to start actually constructing this thing. And it also wants me to cook some of these before we get that far. So that's going to be the next step, is going to be heading over to the stove. Prepare all your ingredients for the filling and leave to the side for the moment. That's this part. Then it dives into rolling out the dough. So I guess I'll set all of these aside since they are now ready, and we can shape the dough. Gotta make a little bit of room on my staging table because it's got a lot of dishes on it right now. Okay. Pull aside our herbs. We're gonna have the dry herbs and the fresh herbs be separate from each other. Because the dry herbs should probably go in a little bit ahead so that they have a chance to rehydrate and wake up. So the fresh and dry herbs are in separate bowls, and that's generally a good idea when you've got a mix of fresh and dry herbs. Fresh herbs have stronger flavors in general. Okay. Gotta move stuff because the next stage is here on the countertop. here on the nice, clean, ready to work worktop. Okay, get out your dough. Here's our dough. It's firmed up, tacky but not sticky. I'm gonna get out my tower of flour and flour the tower. But lightly. There's pictures. They don't have any flour in their picture. They didn't flour their worktop, and it just didn't stick. I doubt that will work for me. I think this is a little, just a hair too sticky for that. But I'm gonna try to go really sparingly because we don't want extra flour. Okay. There's the guy. There's the boy. And our rolling pin, which we are also going to flour. And we start rolling. And we're supposed to roll this out quote, very thin. This is one of the simplest doughs I've ever made. It's 2 parts flour to 1 part water and a little bit of salt. And that's it. And you know what? It's not sticking to anything. Not even a little bit. You're supposed to make it the day ahead. I made this first thing this morning because I was out late last night and didn't make my dough in the middle of the night. It does not need to be a circle at this phase either. Although I'm going for a circle. But I'm supposed to just roll it out as thin as I can get it, regardless of shape. It had me knead it for quite a while too. There was I was watching our friend Redweird this morning and kneading. It's because it needed some kneading, and it's a bit of a dry dough, so it was quite a bit of elbow grease involved. Gonna have to sweep the floor. I'm getting little poofs of flour that go off this way every time I flip the thing. This is why I cut this recipe in half. The ingredients to this were 200 grams of flour, 100 grams of water, and a half a teaspoon of salt. Knead for 15 minutes. Let rest in fridge. Very, very, very simple. And this is the half recipe. The recipe officially calls for that, but double. Yeah, it's not any kind of pie crust that I'm familiar with. It's the simplest dough in the world. But it's got a technique, and that's the fun part, and that's what really... My workspace isn't quite big enough. But I'm supposed to roll this out as... It doesn't say how thick, it just says thin, and the pictures, they have this thing like... It looks almost paper thin, which is why I needed to knead it so much, because it clearly has to stand up to getting really rolled out here. Wish I had a little bit of a bigger worktop for this. I would never have been able to do this at a full size. Ooh, what the heck is that? What the heck is that? Oh, that's parsley. A little bit of parsley, because there was a little scrap of parsley on the sheet over there when I set the... there it is right there. When I set the pin down. Clearly all my effort this morning did work, because this is not... I put a wrinkle in it. This is robust and holding up to being stretched a lot. Okay, that's got to stop doing that. Get off there, parsley. Okay, it's uniformly thin and big. It's about a millimeter thick. There's no fat involved until the stage we are at right now. This is the fun technique bit. Because here's some butter. Now we're adding butter to it. I'm supposed to spread butter over this entire surface. Spread butter over the dough, except reserve a little for spread on the dough after it is rolled again. I'm not sure how to spread butter. There's no picture. It cuts right from rolled out dough to dough has been buttered. There's a little picture of a blob of room temperature butter, so I've got some room temperature butter that I'm going to attempt to spread on this without fucking it up. I'm actually gonna melt it in my hands. Right, right, right. This is a weird recipe. Um, One that I've never heard of. I just need to be careful not to tear my dough. It doesn't look like there's a ton of butter on it, even after it's been spread with butter. So I'm going for, trying to go for thin but even. Fortunately, I did follow the directions in making the dough, and it is quite robust. And I don't think I'm in danger of tearing into it. Right? This is such a fascinating thing. Wait till the next step, because it gets even fascinating-er. I don't know that rubbing it in your hands to soften it up is the correct way, but it's the only thing I could think of. Because I can't just, it's not warm enough here for my butter to be spreadable, even if I had left it out at room temperature all day. It's just not, it's the middle of winter, it's too cold. But just you wait. Just you wait. It gets more exciting in a moment. Or I hope it's going to get more exciting in a moment. I hope I don't screw this up. Okay. We are buttered. I'm going to wash my hands real quick because they are very covered in butter. Well, I'm going to rinse the butter off of my hands real quick in hot water. There we go. Okay, okay. Twists and turns. Um, so here's the next step. Roll up the pastry dough, the pie dough. We did end up sticking just a little bit from my pressing down with the butter. Okay. Ah, you figured it out. I should have flipped it and floured the back before I put the butter on, because pressing down in order to get the butter spread on it caused it to actually stick to my work surface. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time rolling part of it there. Okay. So roll and stretch this thing. I wonder if you know where this is fully going, because this is fascinating, because it wants me to roll this sausage out and stretch and roll, stretch and roll. Put that there. The ends are not quite. Okay. A little bit of air in the ends because they didn't quite come together perfectly. Okay. And then you take this guy and you don't split him in half, you split him in about that much. Take the larger one. It's a very stretchy dough. And he's got it, a little bit thicker than his finger, so we're right in the realm. We're right about in the realm where it wants to be. And he didn't get a perfect roll either. You can see edges and stuff on his, so. Get your plate ready, because this is going to go in your baking container. The tart pan is probably too shallow. Let's go with this one. So we can almost just like pull this to stretch it at this point. Don't break it. Don't break it. Don't break it. Oh, I broke it just a little bit. Just a little bit. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. And then you're supposed to do this. And my end doesn't want to stick, so I'm going to put it underneath. And then get rolling. I think there's a little bit of air caught in my roll. Ooh, okay. We're definitely getting in the realm of it trying to stick now. It's very springy too. It keeps wanting to. Yeah, it's quite the thing. And yeah, it keeps trying to like return to its original shape. It keeps sort of springing back on me. I didn't think it was going to take quite this long. What time am I at? A lot of time. Uh, gonna be honest, did not think it was going to take quite this long. Definitely, we're in for a little bit of a longer show today. Oh, shoot. Well, maybe I should have let it relax a little bit. And then he's got it in a square dish, so he doesn't care about his being a circle. Um, but mine needs to be big enough that it can form a side crust. Which should be just about now. Whew. Boy, pastry work, let me tell you. Well, it's not a square pie dish. It's just like a baking dish lined with tinfoil. It's really like it looked really like a whatever dish I have kind of situation. Um, it still really seems like it wants to like it's trying to contract on me. What if I can't just stretch it like a pizza a little bit here? Because it's flat. I just need it to be a little bit wider. Okay. I hope I haven't been too excessively quiet. Rolling out this pie crust has actually been a lot more involved than my just reading of how to do it suggested. Okay. Uh, Pie. Now we're supposed to dock the bottom once it's in there. So dock the bottom. um, we need to do the same with the other roll, but then it has to go on top of all the filling. So I guess I will set that guy aside for the moment. And get this guy rolled. I kind of want to roll this one out after I've got the fillings in there, because I'm hoping it might have rested the glutens a little bit more. Oh, shoot, I tore it. Stick together. This one will be easier to do as well because it doesn't need to be as big, and I don't need to get it enough flex to drape over the edges like that. It just needs to cover it. But I'm tempted to just sort of start it and then I guess let's get it. I guess let's get it big enough to use, and then we can let it rest. Okay. I've said this before. Never get in a fist fight with a pastry chef. They will mess you up. Powerful forearms. From all this working with the dough that is just constantly fighting back. So how's everyone's evening going? You can tell how mine is going. Lots of working with pastry. I've said before, I baking is one of the things I'm not nearly as comfortable with. So this is good practice. I hope it's going to be delightful crust. Oh, the coil keeps wanting to sort of snap the thing in like that, which is a fascinating quirk of having the dough done this way. It's almost like it has an elastic band around the outer edge. Hopefully that will help it cling on to the finished pie. I want it to be just a little bit bigger. It's very stretchy. This feels a lot like a pizza dough, honestly. It's got that elasticity. I feel like I could toss this in the air and stretch it if I had that skill. Okay. That's going to sit here and do nothing now because we're going to go over to the stove because the ingredients pop over here need to be cooked. Let's get out the really big pan for this because those pumpkins have me concerned that I won't have enough room. Okay. Okay, we are moving on to the next phase in our lives. Some olive oil in the pan. Okay, okay. Start with the onion, leek, and garlic. Let's put the leek in straight away. Some delicious onion. And since my garlic has been pasted, I'm going to let these guys get a head start before I throw the garlic in. Fry the onion, leek, and garlic on medium heat until tender. Parboil some rice. Did that. Add the herbs and pumpkin to this once they're tender. Okay. Okay. So, well, y'all know what I'm having for supper tonight. We're in the partway through it. What's everyone else having? What's the plan? I'm gonna do a little bit more rolling while my pan warms up. Something tasty, something complicated, something easy. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. By the sound of how the rest of this recipe is going to go, I probably could have par-cooked or started cooking the fillings before I rolled out the dough and just assembled it all in one go. Definitely a possibility. Definitely a missed opportunity. Wow. Oh, Thank you for the follows. I wasn't watching. I was so engrossed in rolling out dough. Um, how do I reload that? Okay, let's refresh it. Thank you for the follows. My Twitch, my dashboard panel's acting up, which is fine because I wasn't using it, but now I'm using it, and I wish it wasn't acting up. Oh, we can just use this one so we don't make another one dirty. Uh, I do think we're in for a bit of a long one today, since we're already closing in on the 2-hour mark, and I have probably another hour total to go. So I fully understand if people don't stick around. Because, of course, we have to bake the pie still. Um, oh, ow, popped my shoulder. Okay. I am actually kind of surprised it doesn't want me to par cook the bottom crust. It seems confident that the bottom crust won't just be a soggy mess. It's got a picture of a finished slice of the pie, and the bottom crust doesn't have a ton of integrity. So I guess we'll see. I'm also a little worried that it's going to stick to my pan. It's a non-stick pan, but it doesn't have me oil the pan at all. I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little hesitant about some parts of this, especially given that it's got some sort of weird quirks to it as well. Other parts of the recipe. So I'm tempted to pull the bottom crust out and oil the pan just to try to get this to make sure it comes off. So I'm going to do that. We're going to do that real fast. I've got some butter. We're going to just spread some butter on the bottom of my pan to hopefully assist us in getting a slice out later. Okay. And then quickly return my crust to the pan. And the gluten is none the wiser. Okay. 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 Where did I put my towel? Oh, I threw it behind the computer. Um, um, sorry, I'm reading my recipe again. Let's get the garlic in there. Well, it's a little bit too hot. That's part of the issue. Okay, we're mostly tender. The rings are kind of holding themselves together still. Let's throw in a large quantity of pumpkin. This is definitely more filling than that pie can handle. You missed the secret pastry ingredient. You'll have to go back and watch the VOD, I guess, because the secret pastry ingredient was technique and some butter. But it was mostly a really crazy technique. Um, if you could look in the little thin spot right there, you can just make it out. Um, here's our bottom crust. Here's our top crust. They're ready to go. Um, we just need to prep our fillings. Because there was no secret ingredient. It was all technique. No, it was purely technique. It was rolling it up into a snail shell. It was butter the surface, roll it into a log, roll those into little snail coils, and then roll them back out into sheets. Now with butter trapped in between. Over here on the stove, we've softened up our onions and leeks, added in our garlic, fried that until I could smell it, and then added our pumpkin and herbs. And I'm switching to a larger, more robust spatula. I don't know, unless the pumpkin shrinks a lot, I don't know how we're going to get this in that pie. There's going to be extra filling for sure. Because also still has to go rice in this. Maybe it shrinks up a lot. Maybe I'm misinterpreting this pumpkin, and it actually is going to shrink up as I fry it off here. Normally I would salt this at this point to try to draw some of the moisture out, but it doesn't want me to do that. Oh, I read through the recipe once again, and there is an ingredient in the instructional part of the recipe that is not listed above in the ingredients, and it is black pepper. Sneaky. The classic black pepper to taste. I'll also say I'm glad I have this recipe because there is no way any of my cooking vessels would have been able to handle the full size of this recipe. Because it would be double what I've got now. So a pie twice this size and twice this much of all of this stuff. This is a pie to feed a nation. Smells fun. Those herbs are a combination that I would not have thought of had I not been instructed to do so. I'm adding a little bit more of a couple of the dry ones because I think they need slightly more oomph compared to the quantities of the fresh ones that I ended up throwing in there. So we'll just goose them up a smidgen. I also have learned why dried basil always comes pre-minced. You never get whole leaf stuff because dry basil leaves are kind of fibery. They tend to roll instead of crumbling. I think the pumpkin actually is shrinking up a little bit. Not a ton, but a little bit. It's not quite as towering over the top as it was when I first put it in. Maybe I just had to have some faith. I have thus far not deviated from the recipe, so... Wait, no, yes I did. I put in Cuban oregano instead of Italian oregano. But, interestingly, the pumpkin has shrunk down a little bit. We'll let it keep going a bit. Let's see. The rice gets added off the heat, so that's good. We've also got an upcoming waiting for the pie to bake segment, during which I will have to figure out something else to do or just call it early and do the final reveal. I mean, that would be kind of lame. Nobody gets to see the final reveal live. I really wouldn't want to do that to y'all. But I don't have a... I'll have to think about it. Maybe we can concoct a dessert while the pie is baking. I wish I had a lid for this pan. This pan does not... Oop, dropping stuff. This pan did not come with a lid. I feel like this needs just a little bit more oil, just because it's such a dry thing. And it does say in my recipe, if you feel it needs a little more oil, then sprinkle some in. I think I just need a little more oil for this quantity of squash chunks. Squash chunks. Now I know they're not going to be tender. It wants me to cook the pumpkin for 15 minutes on the stove. I know it's not going to be tender because it's going to have to bake. So it's obviously this is just a par cook, and I just dropped a chunk. Oh well, I'm not going to dig that one out of the thing. It's all covered in goop, covered in floor goop. Okay. Next, I didn't time the pumpkin, so I'm not sure how long it's been cooking. I forgot to look at the clock, but it feels like it's starting to get softened up, and it's noticeably less voluminous in my pan too, which is a boon. The next step is add the olives, capers, and salted tuna and raisins. I'll start with the raisins. The quote, a couple of handfuls of raisins. I'm just going to throw one box of raisins in there. They came in these nice little convenient snack packs, and I'm going to take that as a recommended serving. Deposit our olives and capers. You know, this is probably soft enough that I could use a spatula in place of the wooden scraper. I switched to it because the pumpkin was so hard that this floppy silicone pusher wasn't going to do enough to really stir it around. But now that it's softened up, lightened up a little bit, I think we can switch it back, because it'll help me stir it more evenly as well. This is a really interesting combination of flavors we have going on here. Not something I would have come up with on my own. Speaking of something I would not have come up with on my own, ready salted tuna. Up until I added the tuna just now, this was all veggies. And except for the butter in the pastry, it was actually all vegan. But we had to spoil it by putting a bunch of dead fish in here, so. Okay, then that needs to cook for another several minutes. And while it's doing so, I will get the big bowl ready. So that I can combine it with the rice, because it needs to combine with the rice, but doesn't need to be on the heat, which is good, because this pan won't fit my rice. Well, I won't be able to stir it in there. Okay. Par-cooked rice. Whew. Got a lot of work to do getting these dishes done before I have to leave in the morning. Let's get them at least a little bit stacked up while I've got a free moment. Okay, oh, the flour tower is still out. Almost knocked it over. Okay, it's looking a lot more organized all of a sudden. Maybe it won't be that much work to get it all cleaned up before I have to leave in the morning. Give this guy another stir around. It's taking on a distinctly... Oh, the capers. The capers are actually really jumping out in the overall aroma of this now. They have taken the spotlight away from the mint and marjoram that were dominating. I wish you could smell my kitchen. It has gone through a roller coaster of smells that I've just been kind of glossing over. But when I cut into that red pumpkin, the room immediately smelled like, well, red pumpkin. But it doesn't smell like your standard carving pumpkin. It was this really interesting flavor or smell. The leeks and onions and garlic obviously smelled quite good, as they always do. Frying leeks and onions and garlic is one of those. Frying up alliums always smells wondrous. But among the herbs, I was expecting either the Cuban oregano because it's fresh, or the basil because it's quite a pungent herb to jump out at me. But honestly, the mint leapt out in this profile of the aroma unexpectedly. And now I expected that tuna was going to jump out in the smell, but it's the capers that are dominating. Which I don't mind. I like capers. So it smells good to me. But we have gone through a roller coaster of smells. And such an interesting combination of sweet and savory ingredients have gone into this so far. Move my crust out of the way. I mean, it looks cooked-ish to me. So I guess I'm going to say this part's ready. It's been in there for the requisite amount of time. Need to get back over here and combine it with the rice. Losing bits of leek all the way along. Okay. Is anybody still with me? Wow, more people are with me than at the beginning. Well, brace yourselves. We're about to attempt to fill this pie. With a quantity of filling that far exceeds the size of the pie. I'm not sure what the point of the rice is in this recipe. Pumpkin is already a starch. Plus it has crust. Is it just there to fill the little gaps in between the chunks of pumpkin? Maybe. Maybe. Okay. Okay, here's our filling. Let's get filling. I realize I just scraped this off to clean it and then immediately stuck it back into the thing I had just scraped off of it. You know what? I don't think we've wildly exceeded our volume. It might be a little domed up, but if I squish it in, I think we are actually gonna have just a pretty well-filled pie. I'm amazed. I thought this was going to be wildly too much filling, but I guess I just stick her all in there. I guess we'll just stick it all in there. I'm impressed. So far, every stage when I thought something wasn't going to work, it has worked out perfectly with no additional effort. No, I haven't had to call any audibles to change any element. Everything has worked. Probably shouldn't have said that because we haven't finished the recipe yet. But feeling pretty good about it. Get that guy down in there. Okay. Oh, thank you for the moisten. Mmm, moist. Okay, our pie is filled. Now, this recipe looks like he plopped the top on and then curled this extra over the top to make a seal. But I think I want to curl the extra first. So I just said I have followed the recipe to the letter. Or also, he acknowledges that his pie looks kind of ugly. So I'm taking that as permission to attempt to get a little bit fancier with the pie here. Or should I have... Oh, you know what I should have done? And it's not too late. Not too late. It's never too late. Left just a little hair around the edge. Flop this guy over the top, and then they squinch together. That's what you're supposed to do. And then you go... That's what you're supposed to do. Again, he didn't put his in a pie plate, and that's... This isn't a pie plate either. This is actually a cake round, but... And then, what do you think? Should I take this skirt off or fold it up? Or will it do you think it'll shrink? He sadly does not have a picture of the finished pie. He does very clearly say, cut a slit. So we're gonna slit our top. I guess I'm just gonna... This side especially looks like it's got a little bit too much skirt. So I'm gonna trim this side down. But the rest of the sides, I think, have a more appropriate amount of extra little skirt on them, so we will let them abide. Just this side. And I kind of want to pinch the skirt together too. So just to help this thing have a little bit more integrity. So a little bit of scrap dough with which we could, hold on. We've got a tiny bit of scrap dough. You know what you can do with a tiny bit of scrap dough? Decorate the top. Oop. Now I'm just wasting time because it should be going in the oven right now. But uh, I'm pretty sure this is where the origins of decorated pie crusts came from. Is you finish making your pie and there's just a little bit of dough left. You're like, why go to waste when you can make a weird little decoration out of it? Oop. Okay, well. Okay, enough time wasting, I say as I waste slightly more time. Enough time wasting. This has to go in the oven, and then we have to figure out what to do for the next time it takes to bake. Okay. Okay. Um, is anyone still with me? It's gone in the oven, and now we have to wait. I'm going to clean this up first before I do anything else, because there's some crustiness. I didn't have a second thing planned. I just didn't think about this inevitable stage of making a pie where you have to bake it. So I can perhaps concoct a dessert item while we wait for the bake. I sure would like to be able to finish result the pie live on air, but if people are not interested, I can call it there and just go and just show finished results in photos. Bring back my color sheet. What do we have for dessert items? If I can't come up with anything, then I'm not sure. Something that wouldn't require the oven. And that I have the ingredients for. I'm perusing Google. If you've got an idea, throw it at me. If anybody's got an idea, throw it at me right now. That's not a good website. It doesn't give me any ideas. Let's see. I can start pulling out ingredients. See if we strike inspiration. I've got heavy whipping cream. I've got chocolate, sugar, maple sugar, peanuts, tiny bit of walnuts, almond flour, tapioca flour, coffee. Ooh, there's an idea. Okay, I've had an idea. Strawberry sauce. I don't have fresh strawberries, but I've got strawberry syrup, so I could. Okay, I've had an idea. Let's find. Make Jello's not that far off. I've got to find my one of our earliest projects, actually. This. Not the rest of these things that look exactly the same, but this one. It is an unmarked jar of white powder. Any guess what it is? You'll never get it unless you literally remember the episode I'm talking about. This is my agar powder. cream. Do I want to do it with cream or do I want to do it with milk? Or do I want to do it with half and half? This recipe calls for half and half. It also makes a ton of it. It makes 5 servings. How big is one of these? Two cups. These would be good for it, except you wouldn't be able to see them when they're in there. So I'd have to demold it, which I could do. Okay. That one. Okay. 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 Unplanned project time. Unplanned project time. So it's half a teaspoon of the stuff. How much? It's half a teaspoon of agar powder per cup of liquid for a soft set that's jiggly. If you use a full teaspoon, you end up with this really firm, solid thing that I think is not a very pleasant eating texture. So, if I... That's a 2/3 cup. Where's my half cup measure? I probably just used it. I did. I just used it. It's got rice in it. Okay. We're going to go with a half and half. So, half a cup of cream. I'm going to have to awkwardly hold now because the milk is not ready. It's in my fridge still. Since I don't have half and half, I'm making my own half and half by adding half a cup of milk to half a cup of cream. And half a cup of sugar, right? Oh, quarter cup of sugar. Good, good, good. Good, except that I also just used my quarter cup and it's got flour in it. Because I used it for scooping flour. That's fine, that's fine. Sugar. Probably could have done this without the bowl and just done it directly in the pan, but here we are. And our agar powder. I just used my half teaspoon, didn't I? I used all the measurements that I wanted, right? No, my half teaspoon's right here. Okay, okay, okay. Nope, I spilled some of the powder. I previously had 3 jars of unmarked white powders, and I forgot what one of them was, and I remembered what one of them was, but didn't write down the instructions for how to use it, and also I thought it tasted bad. So I threw those 2 away, and now I've only got the agar, which has no flavor, and I'm going to use imitation vanilla for this. I'm going to puncture you with a chopstick. Okay. 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 Full-size whisk this until the sugar is dissolved. But we're not whipping it. We're just mixing it until everything is dissolved. Interesting idea. Interesting idea. Let's get this in our pan. Let's. Oh, I hid my. Wake up. That one, and then move. Okay. Now, agar needs to come to a boil to properly set. It's the opposite of gelatin. Gelatin, you want to control the heat. You don't want to overheat it, or it will not set properly. You just have to heat it enough that it dissolves. Agar heats up, or sets more the more it heats up. Also, the heat will help us dissolve the remaining sugar, because agar dissolves quite easily just by itself. But it won't set until it's been heated to boiling and then allowed to cool. Strawberry sauce. We're not making strawberry sauce. Sifted sugar for a liquid? No. This is pretentious recipe. It also wants me to do the tilted glass thing. We might do that. Oh my god. This is a little bit of a pretentious take on it. This just needs to come to a gentle bubble. It is, of course, milk and cream, so it'll boil over at the drop of a hat. Oh no, my hat. I've dropped it. I know that this stuff can be unmolded pretty effectively, too. How do you melt Hershey's chocolate bar? I use a Hershey's chocolate bar. Now you melt it in the microwave. The concern is that I got this. This is a s'mores pack of Hershey's chocolate bars. They had these marked down at the grocery store. $2 for 6 bars of Hershey's chocolate. Hershey's is not my favorite chocolate, but that's a damn good deal. Um, so I grabbed it. Okay, we need to keep a very close eye on this stuff because if it boils too hard, we end up with a foamed up mess. We're going to attempt to construct it in that because it should be just the right volume for what I want to do with it. Not too loud, not too soft. This smells good. It smells like vanilla ice cream. It smells like hot vanilla ice cream. Okay. For those of you not familiar with what agar is, it's officially called agar agar. I'm not sure why they named it twice, but they super did. It is it's a thickener. It's a coagulant. It can be used to gel liquids into a solid, but it's isolated from a seaweed, a red seaweed, I believe, as opposed to gelatin, which is isolated from the connective tissue of animals. So it is a vegan. It's like a vegan alternative for gelatin. It's not exactly the same. It's less springy and bouncy and rubbery and jiggly. And I actually prefer the texture of agar. I think that gelatin too often becomes like really too chewy, gummy. Whereas agar, when it gets too firm, tends to break. It tends to solidify to the point where it kind of breaks instead of turning into rubber. Um, there's a speck in here. Also, I find it much easier to work with for the aforementioned reason of you activate it by getting it to the boiling point, whereas gelatin, if you boil it, will break down and not set up as much. This stuff sets up better, so you can't overcook it. I am watching this quite closely because I'm concerned about the milk and cream part of our mixture potentially over cooking. I'm also tempted to add just a smidge more cream just to make it extra creamy. I am literally doing that thing I just said, adding a smidge more cream. Um, Partly because I want to use up this cream. Let's see how much is left. Oh, oh, we're bubbling. We're abruptly started bubbling. What we wanted, but we got to keep an eye on it. If you've ever cooked milk or cream, you will know that once it starts boiling, it goes from just barely starting to bubble to boiled over and catching fire on your burner in like the time it takes to glance over at chat and then blink. Um, it's it's touchy stuff. I also don't want to scorch it at all. I'd really like to get that bit. I got the bit. What's that clunk? I just heard a clunk. Pardon me a moment. There was a loud clunk near the front. Oh, I can't be pardoned because I'm boiling my milk. I hope that loud clunk was nothing important because I cannot divert my attention right now or this will be a disaster. We are definitely at a solid simmer. It starts bubbling as soon as I stop stirring it, and it bubbles pretty much evenly throughout the entire thing. There's no dissolved bits anymore. I'm going to bring it to the point where it tries to do a proper full boil, and then we're going to pull it off. That's going to be my end point. Watch it like a hawk. Hawks are not actually known for watching things terribly intently unless they are hunting. So they usually glance around a lot. Okay. Reaching the point where the foam is going to start building on top of itself faster than I can knock it down. So that's when I want to stop boiling it. And get it into our mold, which is over here. I'm just going to use, don't mind that bowl. We're using a 2-cup Pyrex because it's transparent, so we'll be able to see the sides in the event that I can't get this thing unmolded. I would like to serve it as a vertical thing. Okay. There she blows. This thing needs to go in the fridge. Agar sets up much faster than gelatin. But we still need to make sure that it's set all the way before I can do anything fun with it. Because I have fun planned, because we've still got some time to kill. This is a 1/4 cup of cream. It's all the remaining cream. I'm going to add to my 1/4 cup of cream. This is 100% experiment. I'm going to add to my 1/4 cup of cream a 1/4 cup of, let's not use that one, let's use this one. of strawberry syrup. And then let's mix it together and see what it actually looks like mixed. Pink. It looks pink. I suppose I shouldn't have expected it to look pink, but it does just in fact look pink. To my pink, and I won't need any sugar for this because it's syrup I just added. But I want it to be a little bit redder, so I'm going to add two drops of red. Get that mixed in. Ooh, there you go. There you go. That's strawberry red. Let's add one more drop of red. Nice. Okay. So there's approximately a half cup of liquid in here. So to that, I want to add a quarter teaspoon of agar because I'm making another agar out of this one. And this one's going to be super dangerous because it's cream and sugar. It's a smaller one, so it will take less time to bring to a boil and less time to cool than the other one. Get it whisked in. I'm counting on there being enough water in the strawberry syrup to count as a medium for the agar to gel in. Oh boy, it smells very strawberry. I've got a smaller Pyrex and a smaller saucepan. This is fun. This is fun because I just did not plan this part at all. I just like. Okie doke. Get that guy also heating. Get my various bowls put away. We can put the sugar away. We can put the food coloring away. We ended up not using the chocolate. We went with strawberry. Strawberries and cream is, of course, a classic combination. We've still got some raisins. Okay, okay. I think I know where I'm going with this. I think I know where I'm going with this. Boy, I'd almost forgotten about the agar, but look at me now. Put stuff away. Put stuff away. Okay. Okay. I should start doing some of my dishes now. Boy, I haven't had one run this long in ages. It is a result of me not fully planning out my time, but this little fun dessert interlude, I hope, is going to fully make up for that. Run some water in my stack of all the various bowls I used so they don't harden up. And some knives and some forks. Another knife. Okay. Oop, I see bubbles. Big sticky bubbles, because this one is full of syrup. Okay. Okay. Fortunately, the forecast tomorrow pushed the snow back a bit, so I don't have to get out at the absolute crack of dawn in order to beat the snow for travel. So that's good. I'll have time to tidy this up before I head out. I hate coming home to have dishes waiting for me at all in any form, even just dry ones ready to be put away. We're bubbling. The timer on our pie is at 10 minutes. Okay, okay, we're forming bubbles. Just gotta make sure we're not sticking to the bottom. This isn't a non-stick. The other one was a non-stick. So this one, especially since there's sugar in there, especially has a chance of uh, scorching on the bottom and crusting. Um, we just need to get you hot enough to bubble. We don't want to caramelize your sugars. Oh, thank you for the moisten. I'll get over there in a moment. Mmm. Moist. Okay. 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 I realize my chat. Ooh, there go the bubbles. That's how quickly that goes from not bubbling to just bubbling. Okay. I realize my chatting has significantly declined. Don't spill it, don't spill it, don't spill it, don't spill it. I should let you watch me not spill it. Don't spill it, don't spill it, don't spill it, don't spill it. Didn't spill it. Okay. The rate of chatter declines as the level of concentration on whatever nonsense I'm creating goes up. Okay, this one's oh, it tastes really good. This one's a lot smaller and should set up a lot faster. But the both of them need time yet. Okay. Okay. Unexpected bonus. Yet to see if the unexpected bonus is actually going to work, but unexpected bonus. And that brings us to 6 minutes on my pie timer. So that was just absolutely perfect. Fascinating. Let's get out our pot holders. I'm going to take a peek at it. It hasn't exploded. It has cracked a tiny bit. I'm surprised it didn't want me to put any kind of wash over the top, but even the finished product in his picture just has a dry looking top crust. And we're trying to follow this recipe, so I feel like a brushing of melted butter over the top of the crust would have been nice. But here we are. Ooh, actually, the smell when I opened the oven. Oh, wow-wee. That's complex. You can smell the tuna. I'll tell you that. You can smell the tuna in it. No hiding the fact that there's fish in this pie. Wow. Unexpected. Especially since I've been here. It hasn't been venting that smell out into the room. It's been containing it in the oven. Even while I've been making all the rest of this stuff standing right over the top of it. Fascinating. Fascinating. Watch my timer tick down. Now then it said, if the top is not browned to my liking, I can turn the heat up and cook for up to another 15 minutes just to brown off the top. My top was, and the pictures he's got, his top is not terribly brown at all. So I don't know. Bear with me a sec. I'm gonna go find my tablet and have it ready for photos. Because I'm gonna probably take some photos of the pie intact, and then a slice, and then etc. We're gonna have multiple angles on it. Okay. We're back. I suppose I should switch to this view, since now it's just me talking. I'm not doing anything because we've got just a couple of minutes to hang out. Our panna cotta. We made a strawberry and cream panna cotta. That's what that is. That's what that ended up turning into. That needs to set up. Agar sets up much faster than gelatin, so I expect I will be able to get at it in a bit. Maybe, hopefully enough that I won't have to kill time after I've dug into the pie. I haven't run one this long in. I said that already. I haven't run an episode this long in ages. It's the last time I had an episode run this long, I had one person, and I think it was my only follower. It was that early on, and I really stuck to my 2-hour shows pretty tight since then. So consider this a bonus length episode for our last hurrah for the year. No. You've missed it. Because the pie had to bake. Welcome back, by the way. The pie had to bake for 45 minutes, and we're down to the last minute and a half on that, so it's about to come out. I concocted a dessert while we were waiting for it to bake, and it took just about the right amount of time, and now it is in the fridge cooling. Hopefully it'll be set enough time for me to pull it out and show that off. But yeah, we're down to now just about the last minute before the pie comes out, so you are back in time to see the results. And I've said 4 or 5 times now how I haven't done one this long in ages. Not since the early days when I lost control of things I was cooking and just kind of rolled into a big rambling mess. Yeah, we'll probably have a different selection of people to raid into at this point because I have gone longer than I typically do. But yeah, so that's where we're at. Welcome back. Exciting. Exciting. It's exciting. Give my dessert items a little poke, see how they're doing. They might not quite set up in time, and I don't want to I don't have another thing to fill time with. So if they're not set in time by the time I'm finished cutting into and tasting and showing off the pie, we're just going to, there goes the timer. We're just going to say they're not ready, and I'll try them later and take pictures later. That was the timer for my pie. Let's get over to the stove. You can see I've stacked up the pots that we used today. Let's go over to the stove and take a peek at our pie. Ooh, how do you pick up a pie without breaking it? There she pies. It's split a little bit over here. It's nice and we could brown it up a little bit, I think, but it's definitely cooked. I think I had a little scrap of extra dough and I made a decoration, which held, not falling off. If I was not following the recipe quite so straight and narrow, I would have given this a wash of something to really like give that caramel brown color on top. Maybe a little brushed butter on top just to help the crust really brown up. As it is, it's just kind of a dry top crust. Um, it smells so interesting. It's not like a strong smell. It's a very sort of gentle smell. Or an egg wash, yeah. I had the butter handy, so that's what I was thinking of. But yes, I would have washed it with something just to make the top really shine. Um, I can smell the tuna. There's no getting away from the fact that there's fish in this pie. I can smell the tuna. I can. It's got this like complex savoriness to it. Turn the oven off. Definitely has to cool off a little bit before I cut into it. Because it's a pie, and you always have to cool off your pies. Let's position it and grab some photos. This side looks really good. That side kind of got cracked as it shrank. Um, I'll be bringing leftovers with me, but if you don't like fish, you might not like. Actually, I'll tell you if it tastes like fish. I can smell the fish, so I imagine you can probably taste it too. I'm gonna go take photos on my photo station, but I have to lay down hot pads first. We're gonna take photos of the entire pie before I cut into it, but it's hot, so. So, un momento. It's very dense and heavy, which it should be for the sheer amount of stuff we put into it. I'm back without the pie because I left my tablet in here and I needed that to take the pictures. Not too many pictures of just the whole pot. Okay, that should be plenty of photos of the pie in this at this stage. Um, okay. Um, what do you think? How long should I let it set before I dive in on it? The filling's not liquidy, so there's not like it's not like an apple pie or a sweet pie where I have to wait for the filling to set up. There's nothing in there to set up. It's even the picture of on the recipe of it served. It's kind of a loose filling that sort of tumbles out from between the crust on the plate. I wish that crack was over here because I kind of want to take a wedge out of the side here where the decoration isn't. But I also want to kind of cut the part that's cracked. Okay, 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 okay. Let's transfer this away from the stove. 10 minutes. Oh, well, that's coming up real quick. Let's get over to the countertop where we can look at these things directly above. We don't need that panel. Um, get it off of that. I didn't actually need to put it on the black panel. Okay. It actually smells different now than it did when I took it out. It's. Nope, you can see the top of my head there for a sec. Don't mind that. It smells very interesting. I'm not quite sure how to describe it. It's not something. It doesn't smell like something that I think I've had before. So take that as you will. One of those knives to try to get in there. And an appropriate plate for this. It's going to be just a piece of pie on the plate. So I don't want a giant plate. I hope the filling is like yellowy, brown, and orange color from the pumpkin. So it'll stand out against my plate. And I need a scooper to get it off of there with, since I used a cake pan, I've got really vertical sides. Yeah, this is definitely not liquidy inside. It doesn't need to set at all. It just needs to... It's still hot, hot, hot. Well, I guess let's... The first slice is always the hardest one to get out. We're gonna... Oop. My decorative lip is going to provide me with a decorative hard to get at the pie. I can't get in there without breaking it, because we used a cake pan, as I've said 3 times now. See if I can't. Cut that part. Cut that part. Okay. See if we can't get in under it with my pastry knife. Taste this pastry. Crunchy. Perhaps a little bit burned. Probably should have just trimmed that edge in retrospect. Or folded it in like I was initially going to. Folding it in would have made it less picturesque, but what are you going to do? Okay. Yeah, I just did that. I just redug to the bottom. At least I tried to. It's just the curse of the first slice. The first slice is always it's also blazing hot. Um, the first slice is always hard to get out of these. Ugh, and it's not even. Well, we'll just scoop the extra. Yeah, it's such a loose filling. I guess I can't expect it to hold together at all. Honestly, not 100% certain why this is a pie, except that it is a pie. So scrape up those chunks. The next slice, all subsequent slices will be just simply easier to get at. Because now I have an open edge and I can cut the next one and push it into the opening to make sure that both sides are sliced. I don't need to take a picture of this one, of this specific slice. So I will actually give you guys the taster on it now. A proper taste with all the bits. Mm, mm. They're hot. Hmm. Hmm. It's good. I don't not like it, but it doesn't. It's not like jumping out at me. None of the elements, none of the flavors are dominating over any of the others. They have really melded together. The top crust and bottom crust also have different textures, and I think that's what they're here for, is texture and sort of to let all this stuff steam. Everything's fully cooked. The pumpkin is nice and soft. The rice is perfectly tender. The bottom crust is very chewy. And the top crust is very crispy. The bottom crust isn't soggy at all, which there's not a lot of liquid in here, so that's not entirely surprising. But yeah, it tastes like the sum of all the stuff that's been put into it. None of all of these things I've thrown in here are jumping out at me, including the tuna and the capers and the olives, these really assertive flavors. They're not jumping out. They've really merged into this. It's it tastes like comfort food. It's got kind of a subtle mildness to it. It's hearty. It's definitely hearty and warming and filling. Um, but it's got this lovely, soft savoriness to it. I'm actually glad it doesn't have any like peppery or piquant elements to it, because I think that would spoil this sort of gentle, warming, savory flavor. You'll notice I didn't go ooh when I took a bite because it's not that kind of flavor. It doesn't like jump in your mouth and make you sit up and pay attention to it. It's just this real gentle, lovely. It's actually a perfect cold winter meal because it's hearty and it's sort of this just lovely, gentle, warming food. But it's not a flavor. Ooh, actually, a little piece of tuna. I said ooh just now. So I bit directly into a little piece of tuna. And it's not terribly strong, but you notice it. I will say, you do notice the tuna when you bite directly into a piece of it. But yeah, nothing is terribly strong in this. I like it. Um, okay, we do have the conclusion of our second project. Oh, good night, bookwoman. I'm going to check on my dessert, see if it's ready, and it is not. And as I said, I'm not going to sit around and wait for it. So that's going to have to be carved out later because it's going to need some more time to set up. Unfortunate for us, but something to look forward to. The white layer, the white one, is actually almost set on top. The red one is still pretty liquidy, and based on how the white one jiggles, I'm guessing that about the bottom half is still liquidy. So, yes, exactly. Time to eat, because it's late too. I normally eat much earlier than this. We're going to bring it back to my face, but then we're going to raid off onto somebody quite late. Who should we go see? Oh my. I raid LaFay a lot, but we have to raid LaFay playing this game. Or Slay, or... No, I don't want to watch Valheim. We're going to go raid LaFay, because LaFay is playing a game called Cthulhu Saves Christmas. I'm going to enjoy my pie. So, we had a nice long stream, a good send-off for the year. As I've said before, this was my last stream for the year. I'll be back in January with hopefully upgrades to the channel, ready to rock. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out. It was a good time. I'm glad people stuck with me through this. I did kind of lose track of time. Stay tuned for photos of the dessert, which we weren't able to get to. I'll have to eat that later this evening. And yeah, I will see you in the new year. May 2023 be better than 2022. There's the countdown. I'll just stare you down.